Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my October wrap up. So in October, I finished a total of 11 books, and I did also officially DNF 2 books. And then to go over my ratings, I did have 1 2.5 star book, 1 3-star, 1 3.5 star, 5 4-star books, and 2 5-star books. I also had 1 book that I finished, but I did not rate, and you'll see why. So before we go ahead and get into our reviews, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I'd love to have you do so. Don't forget to click the like button, comment down below, and let me know what your most favorite and your least favorite reads were from October. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, Patreon, and the link to the Hideaway Discord. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into my reviews. So I'm going to start with my not rated book, just to get out of the way. Let's start with the not rated book. So I read a book called The Dungeon of the Monster Breeder. This was by Amanda Clover, and I think it's actually a duo. Amanda Clover and I believe the other author is Jay Ori, but I could be wrong. I think this is by an author duo. So this is actually a choose your own adventure monster erotica horror. So it's a mixture of horror and erotica because it was so out there and there wasn't like an actual classic plot because it's a choose your own adventure. I just chose not to read it. It delivered on what it offered. It was a choose your own adventure. This woman is a princess apparently, and she's having to go through these trials in this monster dungeon, and you get to choose what happens, whether she runs or attacks or uses magic, and the outcome is usually either a horrific SA or sometimes a pleasurable erotic experience or something fully horrific, which I mean, the essay was horrific too. It was just a mixture of horror and erotica, and that's just what it was. So basically, check the trigger warnings before you read this. If you do choose to read this, please know it's not a romance, and please know that it's got every trigger in the book, okay? It's very horrific. It's on the extreme horror spectrum, okay? But because of that, I just didn't know how to rate it. I don't know what else to say about this book. I read it. I didn't go through every single scenario. I probably went through it like 6 or 7 times, like choosing different things or whatever to see what might happen. But I didn't go through like every single scenario either, just so you know. Okay, so my 2.5 star read. This is the second book in the Grilled Cheese Shop series. It's called No Parm, No Fowl. I gave this 2.5 stars. This series follows the owner of a grilled cheese shop. It's a cozy mystery series, and the writing is just not for me, to be honest. It's just not for me. I don't like how after school special it is. This is a cozy mystery, so obviously going into it, you know it's going to be a little bit after school special, and that's fine. That's what you're going into a cozy mystery for. There's not going to be any kind of horrific content. There's not really going to be sexual content usually. There's not going to be basically anything. It's like a PG book, and that's fine, but this book was just too after school special, and just the way the characters talk to each other and the way the writing was, I just don't mesh well with the writing of this series. I thought it might just be a book 1 thing, but it continued through the second book. Unfortunately, this is just a me not meshing with the writing style situation. I think a lot of people could really like this series. It wasn't written poorly. I just didn't mesh with it. So I would still recommend checking the series out if you're interested. And if the writing style doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. My 3-star read was Traded for Their Pleasure by L.V. Lane. I just talked about this in my cozy romantasy recommendations, and this one is very erotic and it is very cozy. So I thought it was perfect for those recs. I did give this 3 stars. I did enjoy it, but because it didn't offer anything extra beyond the kind of like erotic romance side of things and the cozy atmosphere, I didn't really think that it deserved anything higher than a 3 stars. It delivered what I wanted, but it didn't go above and beyond in any other kind of way. It didn't have any extra themes or offer any extra maybe like side characters that I got very attached to. It was very straightforward, and so I enjoyed it. It was good. It passed. It got a 3-star, but it just didn't get anything above and beyond. So this one, like I talked about already in my cozy romantasy series, is about this woman who she has a husband who is mistreating her, and one day he basically trades her when he tricks these 2 barbarians out of 10 chickens. And so he trades her. They actually do give her the option, and she chooses to go with them. They are technically cousins, but in this world it's very common for cousin alphas to share a mate. This is an Omegaverse series, and And yeah, that's normal in this world. Obviously, that's kind of weird otherwise, but book goes from there. It's erotic. Just know that it involves a lot of bodily fluids, so if you're not into that, maybe don't check this one out. And my 3.5-star book was Books Can Be Deceiving. This is the first book in the Library Lovers mystery series. This is set, I believe, in the Northeast, and it's a cozy mystery series. Our main character is a librarian. I believe that she's actually like the head librarian. I can't remember what they call that, but she's the head of the library. There's also kind of like a little bit of a side romance, which is really cute. I thought this was a really good cozy mystery. 3.5 I think is kind of like my average rating. 3.5 for a cozy mystery. When I love a cozy mystery, I give it 4 or 5 stars. I generally like to go to them, especially for like palate cleansers, so I don't go to them for 5 stars. But I really liked this one. I had a good time. I think I probably will continue on with the series. I'm interested in knowing more about what happens with some of the side characters that were introduced in this. Some of the other librarians, some people that work at like the local restaurant with the love interest. This one I'm looking forward to continuing on in the series. In terms of the synopsis, this is about actually the children librarian is the suspect in a murder. Her boyfriend at the time, who quickly becomes her ex-boyfriend at the very beginning of the book, is unalived and she becomes the suspect. So her close friend slash coworker, our main character, has to help her by finding out who done it. The only thing I would say, the reason this didn't get like a 4-star is because I didn't like the way the mystery was done. I didn't think there was enough suspects where you are trying to like solve the murder. I didn't like the mystery aspect. I didn't think was intriguing enough, if that makes sense. So I think if it was a little bit more intriguing, it would have gotten a higher rating from me. Okay, let's talk about the 4 stars. The most recent 4-star that I read was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Now, I see a lot of people really bashing on this book, and I understand why. The miscommunication is frustrating. This book is an Omega-verse paranormal romance written in a contemporary way. It's written where the conflict is surrounding like miscommunication and is surrounding the couple instead of the conflict more having to do with an outside force. Now, there is an outside force conflict in this book, like most paranormal romances have. And I don't think that there needed to be the miscommunication conflict involved as well. I thought it just went too far. The heroine not thinking that the hero could be in love with her and then vice versa. I think that just went too far. I think it wasn't necessary. I also did think that the book could have been shorter. All of that being said, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a fun read. I liked the world that Ali Hazelwood created. I found it to be very interesting and intriguing. I liked the characters. I loved the hero. He was so just perfect for like an alpha werewolf. He reminded me of Alcide a little bit from True Blood. He was just a perfect werewolf alpha hero, and I really liked the vampire, our heroine. I liked her relationship with the hero's sister. He has this little sister that is a side character in this book, and I really liked their relationship. I liked that she was not super cozy, but kind of was forced into this found family situation and found people that really cared about her. Our heroine has grown up not really fitting in anywhere. She was sent to the human world kind of as a trade for human vampire relations. And so the vampires don't like her because she spent 10 years with humans and she doesn't fully understand vampire customs because this happened to her so young. Humans don't like her, obviously, because she's a vampire. She doesn't fit in with werewolves, obviously, because werewolves and vampires inherently don't like each other either. She never really has somewhere she fits in, but there's this found family aspect that I also loved, and that is a trope that I adore. So I gave this 4 stars. I understand why people don't love it, and I understand why I've seen a lot of people that I usually agree with giving it lower scores, but I've seen other people I usually agree with give it high scores, like a 5-star. I think this just comes down to what your favorite tropes are and how bothered you get by the miscommunication, if that makes sense. For me, it bothered me a little bit, enough to drop the rating to 4 stars, but that's it. I recommend this book. I recommend trying it out, especially I would say for contemporary readers who have never read a paranormal. This might be a good one for you. Now, I understand the whole Omegaverse aspect and nodding being something that maybe some contemporary romance readers are not used to and weirded out by, but if you want to try something out that is in the paranormal world or maybe a little bit Omegaverse inspired with the nodding, I would say try this one out. The next 4-star read I have is Ours for Halloween by Violet Taylor. This is a Halloween romance novella that is a why choose, and this is about this girl. She's on her way to a Halloween party and she has this ex-boyfriend that's following her. So he's been stalking her a little bit, treating her poorly. She's a little bit worried that he might be following her. She runs into this man on her way to the party when she gets lost. He ends up helping her when a car almost drives her over, goes with him to this party in the woods where she meets his 2 other friends. Things transpire from there. It is a very erotic Halloween romance. It's why choose, like I said, and it ends up being a monster romance. It's tagged as monster romance, so you know that going in. I don't think that's a spoiler. These men are monstrous in ways I won't tell you because I don't want to spoil that. That is a little bit of a surprise in what way they are monstrous. It was a really good time. I think it delivered on the Halloween vibes, the sexy times. I thought that was really good. I had a wonderful time with this. It's a little bit poly too, I would say. Maybe it's more of a poly than a why choose. It's a why choose with poly elements, if that makes sense. That was a good time. Highly recommend if you are in search for a Halloween romance book still, if you're still in the Halloween mood after Halloween, or maybe next year when you're looking for a Halloween romance to pick up. I thought it was a really good time. Oh, the next one I guess I should have mentioned. I guess this is technically a 4 stars, 3.75. I round up to 4 stars. So this is a 4 stars. I did make a notation that it's technically 3.75, and that is Sovereign by Raya Morris Edwards. This is a dark cowboy romance. So it's small town cowboy, but it has a lot of BDSM elements and it's kind of dark. My rating is very conflicted for this one. This book, it tries to play on the whole BDSM as healing element, which I do enjoy, but I don't think it delivered very well in that. I found this book to be, in the beginning, very enjoyable, especially the first maybe 150 pages or so. I found to be very enjoyable. I thought it would be a 5-star read. I was really liking it. Unfortunately, it went downhill. I think that there wasn't enough relationship development. I felt like it was actually too smutty for what it was trying to do. I didn't actually believe that the hero, the way he was treating her, was really in kind with a healthy relationship. And I've read plenty of BDSM romances that are, but I actually found the way he was treating her was in a reaction to his own mental health issues that he wasn't dealing with well. Yeah, both of them needed therapy. They weren't using BDSM in the right way, if that makes sense. I did not agree with a lot of what happened in the second half of the book. So I didn't like that second half. I felt like the second half was more of a 2-star. So I gave it a 3.75 because I was so conflicted. I'm still not sure. I still may lower it, but I don't generally like to lower ratings unless I'm rereading a book and I'm lowering it then. If you're just looking for a fun time, then yes. If you know not to take the BDS elements too seriously, I went into this thinking it would be highly emotional BDSM as healing. And I think that is not a correct way to describe this book. I think to consider this an okay way to have BDSM as healing, it could actually be detrimental to readers and detrimental to women who read this and think that's okay, if that makes sense. So I don't view it as that. It's still in my brain, it's in my head, so that says something. Like, it's definitely not a forgettable book. I think I said I had 5 4-star reads, right? So the next one is Grizzly Beard. This is Mail Order Mountain 1. This is by Cassie Mint. It is a novella, and this is set, I don't know what time of year. They talk about it being very cold, but I know if you're at higher elevations, that really could be most any time of the year. I think this is fall, winter time frame. This is about a woman who signs up for a mail order service. A lot of people on this mountain, men who are mountain men living by themselves, sign up for the service for a woman to come marry them and spend their life with them. So, mail order brides. Our heroine is a sunshine. Our hero is grumpy. She shows up at his doorstep and he's a big burly mountain man, but he did not order her. She's at the wrong house and he has to get her across the mountain to the correct house. Along the way, they get stranded and they fall in love. I loved this one. I think it may have been a 4.5 or 5 stars if Cassie Mint had done the mountain man correctly. the problem I actually had with this book is really stupid. Like, most people won't have this problem. But the dude didn't have an axe or a hatchet or a chainsaw in his truck when he uses that truck regularly to save people on the mountain. They're driving on the road and a tree has fallen, and instead of taking care of the tree and then continue on his way, they somehow have to sleep there that night and then take a different path. In a community like this, my husband grew up in a community like this, or on a mountain with not that much population. People there, what they would have done to just leave the tree like that, that is not an okay thing to do. That becomes your responsibility immediately. You clean up the tree, and you would hope that someone else would have done the same thing, basically. Especially if he's in charge of search and rescue, there's no way that he wouldn't have a hatchet and an axe, really, and possibly a chainsaw, depending. So that just doesn't make sense to me. They should all be very well versed at chopping and cleaning up felled trees and things like that. So coming from someone who has a mountain man who used to be a lumberjack as a husband and is in charge of cleanup and things like that, that's just not an accurate portrayal. They would not have camped. That would have been much more dangerous for them to camp in the truck on a really cold night than it would have been to quickly clean up the tree that should have only taken maybe like 20 minutes. So I thought that was kind of weird. It made him less of a grizzly mountain man to me, that he was like scared away by a tree. I don't know. That was my own opinion. Other than that, that's just one of my weird quirks. They're just, you know, when you have a weird quirk that makes you not like a book. Other than that, this book was great, and I had a really great time. It was 4 stars, really enjoyed. I took off a star because our mountain man didn't have an axe on him when he should have. Finally, my last 4-star read. This was actually the first book that I finished in October. This was Meet Your Baker by Ellie Alexander, the first book in her Bake Shop mystery series. I have the second book now out from the library. I will be continuing in that series. I had a lot of fun. This is set in Oregon or Washington, but this community is famous for their Shakespeare plays, and our heroine, or our main character, she's coming home to her family's bake shop. She is a gourmet baker on a cruise ship, but she's having issues with her husband. She comes home to try to deal with her feelings about everything that's happened. I really liked her characters. I really liked the side characters. I liked the main character. I liked everything really about this book. It was 4 stars because I think that there will be a 5-star book in the series for me. This just wasn't. But I definitely have a lot of high hopes for the series and really enjoyed my time with this one. And now we can talk about my 2 5-star reads. Okay, so my first 5-star read was For the Love of Fritters and Frights by J.D. Linton. In this one, our heroine is a vampire and she owns or runs an inn. Our hero is visiting his grandmother and she owns like a bookshop, and he's an author and he's looking for inspiration for his next book. The two of them end up fake dating, and this is a really cute like Halloween town. There's all different kinds of paranormal creatures. I really liked their dynamic. They had amazing chemistry, so the steam and the spice was on point. I just loved it. I loved everything about this. The cozy town was perfect. The cozy vibes were perfect. Their chemistry was perfect. I love the fake dating aspect. It was just so good. It was so good. So good. 5 stars. I loved it. The perfect read for Halloween, spooky season, and really I think any time of year. Though it works especially well for Halloween time, just the romance itself, I think really you could read any time of the year. And my last 5-star read, my most recent 5-star read, was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is a epic fantasy romance, the first book in a series, and our heroine lives in this desert kind of city. Everyone is rationing water. There's this queendom. The queen is in charge of rationing out water, and she has actually sectioned off a portion of the city and announced that there was like a plague there, and this is where our heroine lives. There's not actually a plague there. She's just quartered them off basically because of a past rebellion, and they are given very small water rations. Everyone there is just poor and getting by. So our heroine steals something from a guard and gets caught. She ends up meeting the queen and then accidentally going through a portal to this really frosty, cold, wintry Fey realm, and that is where she meets our hero. She finds out she has these special powers, and she has to use these powers for reasons that you will find out if you read the book. It is so good. It was so good. I had the best time with this book. I thought it was so well written. I was so intrigued the whole time. the chemistry and steam and spice between our hero and our heroine was on point. The world building was wonderful. I just had a really good time. I loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it. I ate it up. I think there is very good reason for this to be so popular online right now, and I just loved it. Really quick, I wanted to just talk really quick about the books that I did DNF. I meant to talk about them earlier, but I did forget. But I did DNF 2 books this month. So the first book I DNF'd was How to Woo a Warrior Orc, and this was by January Bell. She just came out with this book, and I did DNF it pretty early on. I don't like books where the characters already know each other and the romance is already kind of sparked. There already is feelings there. They're already kind of flirting with each other. I wanted to love this because it's a cozy romantasy with an orc as the hero. And the heroine is a witch and it's set at a bakery. And look at this cover. Gorgeous. Gorgeous cover. I wanted to love it. I just can never get on with books like that where it's already started. Like, I need to feel it. I need to learn it. I need to know like why these two have started having feelings for each other. And if I'm not part of that equation, I'm just not into it. And then the next one was Devil's Deal. This is the first book from the Yaga and the Devil by Layla Faye. This is a full length, like actually pretty long fantasy romance book. And it's going to be a duology. It's over 500 pages. I read over 100 pages, I believe. This is a Slavic-inspired series. Unfortunately, this is a very, very dark fantasy romance, and it got too dark for me. If you read the trigger warnings, you'll understand that they're all there. There's a lot of trigger warnings. Unfortunately, it doesn't, because maybe it's a spoiler, but the trigger warning doesn't discuss, I guess, the context of some of those triggers, and the context was too much for me. So just know when she talks about those triggers on the trigger warnings, those are like on page, and some of them involve her loved ones, things that the hero does to people that she loves. And I can't get on with that. I'm not down for that. So it was too dark for me. I will never be on board for that hero at that point. So I DNF'd the book. So there you have it. Those are all the books that I read this month, including 2 DNFs and some lower rated books. It was an okay month, I guess. Pretty disappointed though, only because both of my DNFs were books that I thought I would love. I had just some disappointing reads. I did have a couple of really great reads. I want more 5 stars, you know? So overall, I feel okay-ish about my October reading month. What I'm very happy about is being back on BookTube again and reading and talking about these books with you guys. I'm very happy about that. And that way it's good. But I am hoping I have a more successful month next month with a lot of books that I think I will like. Hopefully I do like them and I'm not disappointed. I want to love the books that I think I'm gonna love. I don't think that's too much to ask. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully I do next month. Hopefully all the books that I think I'm gonna love, I adore, and I have all 5 stars. That would be amazing. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button and comment down below. Let me know your favorite and your least favorite books that you read in October. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I post Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Why you never said you felt that way? Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I